All right, so over the past couple of weeks, I've been rewatching the entire Rocky franchise, and I thought, you know what? Let's rank them. And remember, this is my opinion, so this means this is the only correct opinion, and this is the way you should have them ordered. So let's go. I think the general consensus is that Rocky 5 is probably the worst, but even then, it's not a bad movie. I think there is a good movie in here with a better director's cut or a Stallone cut. There's rumors of a work print, and I've seen breakdowns of it, and it sounds amazing. But as it stands, it's just very mid compared to the rest, man. Next up, and this might be controversial, but it's going to be Rocky 3 for me. Good God, Stallone was chiseled, man. Whew. I think for me, Clubber Lang doesn't really work. He's just too goofy, too over the top, too one note, very 80s. If I had to pick a movie that has aged poorly, it would probably be Rocky 3. It's aged very poorly. And Mr. T is an aspect of that hasn't aged well. I don't think he works for me as a villain. The final fight is very disappointing. Go to training montage. Awesome getting to know more of Creed, getting more of Creed. But I just don't hold it in as high of a regard as the other movies. Next up for me is going to be Creed 3. Now, this movie does a lot of things right, but for me, its flaws outweigh its positives. I didn't like the anime stuff. I didn't like the way the fights were shot. They felt kind of lazy at times. And the whole, the prison cell coming down in the ring thing, I just want to say that was corny. But this movie lacks a lot of heart that all the other Rocky movies, even Rocky 5, had. It feels a little empty at times. It feels a little contrived. The way the plot gets going is kind of goofy. Damien was awesome. Michael B. Jordan, his Adonis is kind of he's never been that interesting to me. But this is by no means a bad movie. It's just very average to me. Next up is going to be Rocky 2. And again, this is actually a good to great movie. But this movie does have some pacing issues. And I don't quite like how they painted Rocky to be a complete moron. He was simple before. He had a simple view of the world. A simple outlook, right? But in this, the dude can't read, he can't drive, he's stumbling like a moron. That never sat right with me, and upon rewatch, it doesn't sit right with me. But, it feels like when Adrian went into a coma, it felt kind of contrived and just forced, and it really brought the pacing to a halt. But everything else is pretty good, and what I love about this, and Stallone is so good as a writer, is that the story in Rocky 2 feels like such a natural progression over where things would realistically go after the first Rocky. But yeah, one of the better sequels we've ever had. All right, next up we got Creed 2. I genuinely can't find a flaw in this movie. It's just a very well done movie. It's derivative of all the other Rocky movies. It's kind of what we've seen before. But this movie retroactively made Rocky 4 such a much better movie. And this movie itself, the internal conflict with Donnie is, interesting. But where this movie really shines is, again, with Rocky and with the Dragos. We took a goofy 80s cheesy cartoon villain and gave him so much nuance and depth with this movie. And his son, Victor. Gosh, what a great character. There's so much potential there. And then the final minutes of this movie are some of the most beautiful stuff you'll ever watch. Rocky reuniting with his kid. Seeing Victor cry in his father's arms, man, after he lost. And his dad telling him it's okay. Drago doing what Rocky couldn't. Throwing in the towel for his son. Forsaking basically everything. The country that he wanted. The respect he wanted. He gave all that away because in the end what really mattered was his son. How about Rocky telling Donnie, it's your time, kid, and him stepping back kind of into the shadows? Just, ooh. Even Donnie going to his father's grave, man. Just, my God. Okay, so next, I am going to go with Rocky 4, but specifically, I'm going to go with Rocky 4, Rocky vs. Drago, Stallone's director's cut. This movie kind of improves on a lot of the flaws that were in the original Rocky 4. It's genuinely a great movie. It's a much more serious movie. We get Apollo's motivations a lot more fleshed out as to why he wanted to fight Drago in the first place. And it really kind of informs Rocky's struggle later on. We get more scenes with Drago that kind of paints him as more of a sympathetic figure. And like I said, Creed 2 makes this movie so much better. Because a lot of the things that Drago was being put through in this movie, like his trainers telling him, why isn't he down yet? Are sins that he carried to his son. So it's there's so many threads that connect to Creed 2. But Stallone really changed a lot of things in this. He took out that dumbass robot, Paulie's sex bot, and this movie has a much more serious tone. We still get all the epic montages, the badass fight, but It's just a much better cut, a much more serious cut. It works better, and it's actually a great movie that you guys should check out if you haven't. It's on Amazon Prime. It's worth a watch. Watch it and then watch the original Rocky 4 right after it. You'll see the differences. It's like 40 minutes of new scenes in this movie. I love it, man. It's great. And number 3 for me personally is going to be Rocky Balboa. This movie had such a profound and deep effect on me, man. Like, words can't explain how much I love this movie, how inspirational it is. The training montage, all of Rocky's speeches, his internal struggle, him being without Adrian, him fighting for his own life because he doesn't have her anymore. The story of what went into making this movie. This movie's, and in my opinion, probably Stallone's best acting. That scene where he says, "I feel like there's a beast inside me." Man, the fight itself was shot so well. Stallone really knows how to shoot fights, man. I could go on and on and on about how much I love this movie, what makes this movie special, what makes this movie great, but let's move on. The First Creed. This movie kind of came out of nowhere. I think when we heard the idea, we were all kind of skeptical. What, Apollo had a kid that we never knew about? All of a sudden, what? We want more Rocky. This movie is just such an emotional roller coaster, man. This movie, it's a perfect movie. Stallone probably gave the best acting of his career here, nominated for an Oscar that he should have won. He was fucking robbed. Mark Rylance, seriously, Bridge of Spies? But Donnie's internal struggle, while interesting, pales in comparison to just how good Rocky is in this and how interesting he still is. We've literally watched Rocky from a young man until this age, like where he's all alone and he has nothing left to fight for. In my opinion, the Rocky movies have never been about going the distance in the sense of push through adversity. It's about finding love in your life and having those who love and support you to help give you that fight to push through obstacles. Rocky had given up on life until he met Adrian. When he lost Mickey, he couldn't do it until Apollo gave him the strength to rise up. He couldn't focus on his fight until in Rocky 2, until, Adrian gave him the strength to rise up. Rocky 4 is a bit of a revenge story, admittedly. But without his love for Apollo and his love for Adrian, he could have never done it. Rocky Balboa, man, he was all alone, and the love of his son, the love of Paulie, everything, man, helped push him through it. And in this, Rocky had given up on life. He was just surviving, but he wasn't alive. And it wasn't until Donnie gave him that fight again. He gave him something to care about and to fight for, and he fought for Donnie. And it's such a beautiful struggle. Seeing Rocky basically give in to cancer and give up literally made me cry in the theater. Because this is our hero. We've never seen him give up. He's always pushed through it. He's always fought. Witnessing him give up like this literally broke my heart into a million pieces, and it still does every time I watch it. When I break, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to fix it because I'm here, and everything on that wall is in the past like me. Bro, seeing Rocky give up is one of those things that just affected me. This movie is incredible. Okay, moving on. The greatest sports movie of all time, and I don't even like calling it a sports movie because boxing is in the background. Boxing doesn't even matter. This is really a love story, and it's a story of two people bringing out qualities in each other that they didn't know they had, and how they better each other, how they make each other stronger, how they make themselves the best versions of each other. They give them each other the strength to fight in life. This movie is a brilliant, beautiful, tender, emotional character study that I'll never forget. One of the most well-written and emotional movies you will ever watch, man. It's a perfect movie. And it's aged like fine wine because stories like this only come around once in a lifetime. This set the cliches for all other sports movies, man. They follow the template Rocky laid out. The way we fall in love with Rocky instantly is it's some of the best character work you'll see. But at the end of the day, this movie is a love story, and the love story is one of the most well-crafted love stories of all time. And a touch that I didn't catch until I was an adult was at the end of the fight when he's battered and bloodied. What they choose to focus on is Rocky calling out for Adrian. We don't even really hear the announcement of the fight of who won. Like, that's in the background. What's in the forefront is Rocky looking for Adrian. And that's so beautiful. And it really encapsulates what Rocky is all about, man. It's about love, finding love, and bringing out the best in each other, man. Rocky's my favorite character of all time. This is my favorite franchise of all time. It's one of the greatest franchises ever created. I know this is a long video, but if you made it this far, thank you. Let's all love Rocky together, man. May Stallone live forever. And may Rocky always live forever, because he will live forever. In here.